Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kita mulakan program kita pagi ini dengan suratul Fatihah. Okey, selamat datang ke program CG ODL Publication Series, How to Write and Publish Your ODL Practice. Okey, so ini adalah webinar, siri webinar yang seterusnya daripada CG ODL, CIDL, dan saya Arniza binti Ahmad selaku moderator anda pagi ini. Okay, sebelum kita mulakan, sebelum kita serahkan program kita pagi ini pada tuan speaker kita, saya ingin menjelaskan sedikit objektif untuk program kita pagi ini. Sebenarnya, okay, antara objektif program kita pagi ini ialah untuk memberi sedikit pendedahan ataupun pengenalan kepada program kepada siri penulisan, okey. Allah. Okey, sebenarnya program kita pagi ini adalah sebenarnya untuk menggalakkan penulisan dan juga penerbitan di kalangan pensyarah, terutama sekali untuk terutama sekali yang melibatkan ODL practice, okay, open and distance learning practice. Dapat berasaskan kepada e-learning, ODL dan juga higher education. Okay, right. Untuk makluman semua juga, okay, kita telah mendapat persetujuan dengan pihak ASAP di mana semua manuskrip yang disubmit, insyaAllah di penghujung bengkel ini akan kita cuba publish di dalam National Journal of E-Learning and Higher Education. So, right. Jadinya pihak CGODL, CIDL akan bantu anda, okay, untuk menulis dan juga menerbitkan manuskrip anda selewat-lewat, insyaAllah. Okay, selewat-lewatnya bulan Oktober 2021. Okay, harap-harapnya sempatlah kita masuk dalam MyATP nanti. Okay, right. Okay, saya sedikit untuk housekeeping. So kalau dimohon untuk semua peserta untuk mutekan mikrofon, dan sekiranya ada soalan bolehlah tulis di ruangan chat area ataupun boleh juga mutekan mikrofon anda dan terus bertanya pada tuan speaker kita. Okay, right. Okay, di ruangan chat area juga saya telah masukkan link untuk pendaftaran bengkel sekiranya ada yang berminat untuk terus serta dalam bengkel kita petang ini dan juga untuk besok. Okay, right. Saya ingin memperkenalkan penceramah kita pagi ini, okay, iaitu Prof Madya Teknologis Dr. Johan Eddy Luaran daripada ISAPS. Beliau juga merupakan Deputy Editor-in-Chief, okay, untuk International Journal of E-Learning and Higher Education. Okay, so kita dengar sendiri daripada mulut daripada editor, okay, untuk jurnal sendiri, okay, bagaimana, okay, sedikit tips-tips dan juga teknik, okay, dan apa yang perlu kita buat untuk memastikan manuskrip itu diterbitkan di dalam International Journal of E-Learning and Higher Education. Okey, tanpa membuang masa lagi, okay, saya serahkan program kita ini kepada Dr. Johan. Okey, sila Dr. Johan.
Okey, selamat pagi dan terima kasih kepada Puan Erny. Boleh dengar saya Puan Erny?
Boleh.
Okey.
Loud and clear.
Okey, thank you. So, good morning everyone. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera. Stay home, stay safe ya. Semoga kita semua sentiasa dilindungi dan bebaslah daripada sebarang jangkitan pandemik COVID-19 ya. So sesi yang telah dimintalah oleh rakan kita Puan Erny untuk saya berkongsi pada pagi ini adalah bertajuk Workshop on How to Write and Publish Your ODL Practices ya. So sebelum saya share dokumen dan slides ya, I would like to inform that kalau ada sebarang soalan, you can cut me at any point of time. Mungkin bila share screen nanti saya tak nampaklah mungkin chat tu. So you can stop me at any point of time lah, so that saya boleh attend to that question lah kalau saya boleh jawab. Kalau tak boleh jawab, then mungkin you need to give me some time to check with some people yang have higher authority or have more knowledge than me. So let me share my screen. Kalau boleh I share my screen sekarang. So I think you are now looking at my screen. So I rasa before I proceed, so this is I think kalau nampak poster-poster ni, ini adalah poster yang telah di promote oleh CIDL kita, iaitu sesi pada pagi ini adalah menjurus kepada how to write and publish your ODL. Okay, it always a practice, I rasa ramai rakan-rakan di sini yang telah menerbitkan banyak paper dalam jurnal-jurnal dan juga dalam buku, because I notice ramai juga peserta kita pada pagi ini yang memang adalah prominent writers, Okay, tanpa membuang masa, konten yang saya akan cuba kongsikan pada hari ini adalah ada 8 konten, 9 sebenarnya, iaitu yang pertama ialah Introduction to International Journal on E-Learning and Higher Education, seperti yang dinyatakan oleh Puan Erny tadi. And how can ODL based research be initiated? Just a brief one. Type of papers, format of submission, publication process, peer review versus editors, quick check by editors, evaluation of articles, and consent form. So basically, this content adalah menjurus kepada journal, iaitu International Journals of E-Learning and Higher Education. Tetapi sebelum kita pergi kepada konten ni, I just would like to share with everyone, kalau kita browse senarai journals yang ada di UiTM ni, just kalau rakan-rakan semua boleh just type senarai journals, UiTM journals, it will drive you to these websites. Sebab kita jelas, kita faham bahawa participants for these sessions, not only for this session lah, tapi seluruh UiTM, we come from these different disciplines, So one size doesn't fit all. For example, journals yang bakal saya terangkan sebentar lagi adalah more into e-learning and higher education. But if you come from different disciplines, just to share with you, in UiTM, we have about 45 journals, yang berdaftar dengan RNC, So we have certain journals berdasarkan bengkelan kita ada dengan editors of all the journals, especially with Dr. Yong from RNC. Kita ada juga beberapa journals yang tidak berdaftar dengan UiTM, but still journal tersebut mempunyai ISSN, di mana it is a journal, cuma dia tak berdaftar dengan UiTM. One that I can recall is with pharmacy lah. Pharmacy sebenarnya ada satu journals which they do publish volumes and certain issues every year, So if you scroll down these journals, you will find our journals is here, International Journals on E-Learning and Higher Education. This is the journals, Okay, so you'll be able to read more about these journals under these websites. So once you click here, you'll be able to link to the websites of the journals. Okay, let me back to my slides, Okay. Okay, so this is the cover page of the journals. Okay, the first part of the presentation is basically I akan focusing on the journal itself, supaya when we move further, kita tahu what are the requirement of the journals lah, Since the tajuk pun kita panggil ODL, So basically when we talk about ODL, which bila pandemic happen, kita always relate it with e-learning delivery. So e-learning is always associated with these journals, So when editors receive paper related to e-learning untuk jurnal-jurnal yang saya nyatakan tadi, then they can't publish in their journals sebab, you know, different journals have different criteria, different focus. So they will push to another journals for publication, yeah. So I think everyone knows that setengah jurnal tu dia mempunyai fokus. So they just can't publish journal paper yang mungkin tidak related dengan jurnal dia. So for these journals, it's focusing on e-learning and higher education. Untuk makluman semua ya, journals ni adalah flagship journals of ICEPS. Before this, it was first established under Ireland. Okay, dan selepas itu ke INED, okay, Institute of New Education, dan until now it is with ICEPS, ya. So it packed together lah dengan Ireland, ya. Wherever Ireland go, then these journals will be with the institutions. Okay, journal IGL, ya, ataupun nama pendeknya IGL ni adalah satu jurnal yang kita publish 2 kali setahun, iaitu pada bulan Januari dan pada bulan Jun every year, ya. Okay, this is the website. Kalau nampak ya, kalau klik link tadi dalam journals UiTM tadi, it will bring you to this page. So ini adalah main menu dia. Memang kebanyakan journals di UiTM, kalau nampak all the journals, it is compulsory untuk kita nyatakan all this info like more practice statement, indexing, editorial board, UiTM press, the university, full paper guidelines, calling for manuscripts and contacts. So on the right side here kita boleh nampak senarai volume dan isu yang kita dah terbitkan dalam jurnal sini, ya. I'm not sure the expectation of the participants for this morning session, ya. Cuma mungkin kita comes from different disciplines. Tetapi for ODL, ya, when we talk about ODL, it's always being associated with e-learning. So if you find that the current practice yang kita telah buat for the past 2 years, ya, when it's first being implemented like MCO and everyone goes online, ya. So I think this is the opportunity for us to make into our practice, and perhaps we can write something related to this practice, ya. So that's why CGODL is actually taking a very good initiative untuk having this workshop dan sama-sama try to figure it out what kinds of paper that we can publish during this ODL time yang kita dah buat for the past 2 years, ya. For these journals, ya, there are 2 main elements which I've been mentioned earlier juga. It must have these 2 elements. One is e-learning and higher education. Okay, so maksudnya when we receive the manuscript, these are the 2 main elements yang kita cari dulu. Adakah dia related dengan e-learning and adakah dia related dengan higher education. So I think for UiTMs and for other higher education, it fits us, these 2 learnings. I think this is one of the reasons why CGODL choose these journals. Okay, for us to publish in a special issue for all the participants yang akan hantar manuskrip kemudian, ya. Okay, when we talk about higher education, okay, we are referring to MOHI 2020, ya, Ministry of Higher Education, which includes public universities, okay, the research ataupun the participants ataupun the samples or the context that has been taken into the research. Private higher educational institution, polytechnics, and community colleges. Yeah, but at the same time, the journals also accept research yang dijalankan di sekolah, okay, primary school or secondary schools, which involve teacher, but in the context of higher education. For example, the teachers in that research is actually attending continuous professional development, CPD. So you want to put that into a research, we do accept that. Okay. And then when it's come to outside Malaysia, higher education, actually we are referring to any secondary institutions. But again, it's all depending on the outcomes of the review of the editors, because these journals actually applies double review, So again, these are the first consideration that we will look into, According to Merriam-Webster, education's beyond the secondary level. So sometimes we have argued also amongst the editor, is this higher education or not? But in the end of the day, we actually accept some papers yang mungkin in the gray line, but it's still towards higher education. Okay, so there are two elements, as I mentioned earlier, higher education and e-learning. So the e-learning part, okay, can be anything which you apply, okay, the e-learning punya parts in that paper. For example, if we look into a broad term, it might be teaching with technology, learning with technology. So if you zoom it in, it might involve MOOC, massive open online course. It might involve micro-credential. It might involve open educational resources, okay? And mobile learning, e-learning technology. And it's not only limited to all these terms, other topics yang related to the field of e-learning is also accepted, okay? Basically, as long as the research have covered some part of e-learning, okay? But again, we will consider that, but still it's based on the editors and reviewers punya recommendations, okay? Because I know we do aware that writing a papers is actually not easy, and evaluating it also is not easy. It's very abstract. Some people will say that this is a good paper. The second reviewer kata we should reconsider this paper. So as long as what we can advise to the writer and the writer are willing to rectify or to take our recommendation into the writing, then there should be no problem for us to accept the paper to be published. Okay, in terms of indexing, sebab ramai juga yang mungkin very concerned about indexing, currently this journals is considered under peer review journals and abstracted and indexed in my journals. Okay, my journals is actually a repository. Okay, belong to Jabatan Pendidikan Tinggi in KPT, Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia, Kementerian Pendidikan Tinggi Malaysia, So in these my journals, it actually hold about 552 journals. Okay, so you see, around Malaysia, kalau kita tengok, my journal ni actually a repository which hold all the journals in Malaysia. So we have about 552 journals in Malaysia alone. So among these 552, here ada another lagi tier which is called Malaysian Citation Index. This is what we are planning to have next. In fact, the process of evaluation is now taking place. So after my journals, then ada satu dipanggil my site, which is Malaysian Citation Index. So CIDL is currently under evaluation to be included in Malaysian's Citation Index. For your information, daripada 500 tadi, 552 journals yang diindeks dalam my journals, there are about 200 saja yang decide dalam Malaysian Index, Citation Index. So we hope that in the next cycle, IJL will be indexed in the Malaysian Citation Index. Okay, so in terms of the editorial board, okay, this is actually changed over the time. Sebab our patron is UiTM Vice Chancellor. So whoever become the Vice Chancellor will become the patrons. And the advisor will be the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Academic and Internationals. So whoever become the TNCL will become the advisor. And we do send copies to them, yeah, for the journals. And our editor-in-chief is currently our, is there any message just now? Can you hear me loud and clear? Yes?
Ya, Satu Johan.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Kalau ada any questions, perhaps you can just cut me off lah, ya, Puan Erny. Okay. And then our editor-in-chief is our CEO for ICEPS, which is Professor Dr. Azwar Yahya. And I am the deputy chief editor-in-chief. And also, when it's come to RMC, dia akan ada satu term dipanggil managing editor. So managing editor ni adalah editor yang dia akan contact if anything related to that journals. Yeah. So we have editors here, which is we have 2 professors, 4 associate professors, and we have doctors, and also we have reviewers, other reviewers. Yeah. So actually, when we appoint these reviewers, there are 2 ways of doing this. Kita tanya, dan once they are willing to become the reviewers, we will send them a paper one in a year lah. Contohnya kalau more papers, then we will send to them for them to review. Okay. Okay. For these journals, okay, we only accept papers which written in English. Okay. So the manuscript should be formatted for A4 size paper, but this one you shouldn't be worried so much, because one of our designer is dedicated for this manuscript. So if you did not follow this format when you submit to us, we can format it for you lah, but make sure that you follow all the contents that we have in our template. Once we have everything there, then we can help you with reformatting. But if there's some info are missing, then we will send it back to the writer. So the length of the manuscript should be between 8 to 12 pages. Yeah? So kalau kita translate this number pages into, I think into number of words, it is about 2,500 to 4,500 words. Okay, that will include table, figures, and references. Okay, manuscripts submitted to the journals will be initially screened. Okay, this one I will show you later. What are the flows, yeah, when you receive the manuscript and what happened next, etc. Okay, so this is the journal's affiliation. We belong to UiTM. And when we publish the journals, that will be under UiTM Press, yeah? Penerbit UiTM. So as you being aware that publication with universities publication like UiTM Press is one of the weightage, yeah? When it's come to indexing, when it's come to a publication. Sebab bila kita isi my Prisma pun, they will always ask us who is the publisher, okay, for the journals. So when we the process is when we completed the journals, when we have everything, the manuscript all in order, then we will send to Penerbit UiTM for the verifications. Yeah. Okay. The next one. Okay. This one I have only one slide for this one, but never mind. I just would like to share with everyone that how can ODL-based research be initiated? Sebab as I mentioned earlier juga, ODL ni kita selalu associated with e-learning. Okay, some of us might use Microsoft Future for our LMS. Some of us might use Microsoft Google Classroom. Ada juga yang menggunakan Edmodo for our learning management system. Ada juga yang menggunakan like WordWall, ada beberapa software lah ya, web-based, Web 2.0, which to increase untuk students punya interest in the class. So this is what I can share with everyone based on the paper yang kita dapat ya dalam kita punya publication. These are the three ways of how we can initiate the ODL-based research. Number one is we can look into the inquiry based on an existing problem. Okay, so kalau at this point of time you still planning what are the things ataupun you are still like figuring it out, what are the type of research that I can initiate related to ODL, mungkin you can look into an inquiry based on existing problem. Contohnya, one of the question that I put here to trigger your interest is that how can I make my students more motivated to engage during my online class? Is there a strategy and tools which I can integrate? Okay, so I would like to, if you go to the website actually for the journals, I'm not sure which volumes, but ada satu yang one of the topic which related to this type of research is where written by Nurul Alima. I think this is in last year's publication. The topic is a preclinical year medical students' perception on the usage of Kahoot. A quiz challenge as post-PBL assessment. Quiz challenge as post-problem-based learning assessment. So this is a kind of topics lah, and the full paper you can actually read it in our websites. Yeah. The second ways of how we can initiate audio research is based on trends. Yeah? For example, when we came across ataupun when we read some articles, contohnya it has been reported that flipped learning model enable more meaningful engagement for my students. I'm wondering if it's the same case for my class. So this is actually based on trends lah, yeah. So for example, if you wanted to see whether this is applied to your class, then perhaps you can look into it, yeah. And the third one might be inquiry based on existing literature or practices. For example, I would like to understand the development on the use of social media in education. So in other publication, ada beberapa topik which is related to this which you can look into. Contohnya adalah contohnya adalah studying the usability on various types of programming mobile application. So yeah, these are among some of the ways lah on how we can initiate our ODL-based research. There might be other ways of initiating it lah, ya. Cuma I categorize this into three. And other ways might be you can actually find ataupun this might be another way of doing that, but I put that into these three categories. Okay, so the next one is the type of papers. The type of papers which we do encourage for the publication of these journals. We categorize them into 4, tapi kita letak juga etc. sebab other paper is also accepted. Number 1 is empirical research articles. I will explain more after this. Number 2 is conceptual paper. Number 3 is research articles. Number 4 is perspective, opinions, and commentary articles. And you see, kita ada juga book review. Okay. And then, etc. Etc. ni is perhaps there are other type of paper yang kita mungkin can put a name to it. No? Yeah. Cuma for this journal, we do not accept extended abstract. Yeah. Extended abstract, we do not accept extended abstract. Okay. Again, I would like to reiterate that it all depends on the editor's punya comments lah, upon recommendations. Yeah. Okay, the first one, empirical research articles. I think I'm in the group Telegram that everyone's are in, especially the participant that Erny have created last night. Yeah, they have some examples lah, yeah, dalam tu. Okay, then let's come to empirical research. Okay. An empirical research reports. Okay, this one is actually just a general terms lah. Yeah? An empirical research articles reports the results of the study that uses data derived from actual observation or experimentation. So maksudnya this articles is actually a result of a study. For example, you have actually done a study, and then you collect data from that study, and you write a paper on it. So that is actually an example of research and empirical articles. Basically, you are deal with primary data, the data that is belong to the researcher. And this other link is actually link us to our one of the journals in our website. Yeah? So if you click this one, this will bring you to the journals, and most basically all of the journal is data driven. Okay, data driven. Okay, it's a data driven. So I think this is the data ke slide yang okay. So basically, this is the type of empirical data. Okay, and what do we have in this article? Bila kita tengok paper ni, basically a typical structure that we have in an empirical research article is that abstract ada, okay, with not more than 6 keywords. You should have keywords lah, yeah, for this, but usually we limit it to 6. And this is the introduction. I mean to say you have your background, problem statement, purpose statement, research questions. Actually, it's a challenge for the writer also to put in everything, yeah, precisely. Cuma as long as you have mentioned it clear, then should be no problem for the editors. For the shading channel ini ke? I think this is you can just go to journal INET. INET.uitm.edu.my. Okay, so these are the link, yeah, to answer the question that I can see that tadi. Tapi dia keluar sekejap and then dia appears, dia disappear. Eh? So these are the link to the journals. Okay, and then basically this is the continuation of the slides. Yeah? Selepas tu a typical structure lah. Kita tak ada macam this is the one that you must follow, tak ada. As long as you have everything in that 6 to 12 pages. We expect that to have a review of literature. Biasanya dia integrated throughout the articles lah, okay? And it does not necessary for you to put the heading as a literature review, tak perlu. You can use the themes as a heading. Okay, you might include some studies on the theme. Theme here maksudnya if you are doing something on augmented reality. So in this part, when it's come to literature review, we would like to see that you have actually include some review on what is augmented reality. The theme is augmented reality lah here. And then what are the theoretical framework established involving ODL practices, if any? This is an examples. So in literature review, you can put kalau lah you have established. This is actually related to some thesis. Yeah? When you do PhD, you dah siap, then you wanted to push that as a journal paper, then you can include this in your write-up. Okay, and then after you have review of literature, then we are looking for methodology. Okay, and when it's come to methodology, if you can explain all this in one paragraph, ataupun 2 to 3 paragraph, yeah, doesn't have to be a specific subtopic for this lah. You just mention methodology and the setting, the participants, the instruments, the procedure, and the analysis is like being explained in one subtopic. Of course, we would like to see the results and discussions and conclusion and references. Yeah. Again, yeah, I would like to again highlight this. Sebab I will highlight again in the end of the session that in the end of the slide nanti, bahawa if you use any diagrams, yeah, any figure, yeah, which is not belong to you, like when you wanted to explain a concept, yeah, ataupun a framework related to your research, like TPCAK, yeah, technology, pedagogical, content, knowledge, yeah. You would like that diagram to be included in the research. That is the author punya responsibility to have the approval. Okay, we will have that in the consent form later. Okay. Okay, the second paper that type of paper that most of the writer hantar adalah in terms of conceptual paper. As I think the name pun conceptual paper kan. So when it talks about conceptual paper, we don't expect any data. Okay, as it is actually focusing on integration of and proposing a new relationship among constructs. Yeah? So if you have idea, if you have a new ideas of yes, I will share with the slides dengan semua dokumennya after this sessions, yeah. Or I can share it now so that kalau semua nak, you all can have a look into it. So, yeah, I stop sharing. I would like to share the document. I share document now atau kemudian Puan Erny? Which one should I do?
For those yang join bengkel petang ni, so kita akan share juga dalam group Telegram. Okay, but then yang join just only the webinar for this morning, then I think we need to share with them as well this morning.
Okay, okay, can. I can share with everyone. Okay,
okay, thank you.
So this is the link. So I think while we look into this, I think better to have the slides, then semua boleh tengok sekali lah, ya. So let me share the links now in the chat form. Okay, so I have shared the link here. So while I share this, everyone can look into that also, yeah. Okay, let me share again my screen. Okay, so this is the slide. Okay. Okay, when it's come to conceptual paper, according to Gilson and Goldberg 2015, this one I took it from one of the articles. Yeah? Conceptual paper is actually bridging existing theories into interesting ways, link work across disciplines, provide multi-level insight, and broaden the scope of our thinking. Okay, so the example here is that if you click this one, let me back. Okay, so there are a few papers dalam journal ni in the website. Tapi memang practice ya. I notice among the editors pun, bila they share documents like this ya, example paper, dia tak ambil daripada journal saya. Dia ambil journal daripada journal orang lain. So I actually apply that practice lah ya. Contohnya hari itu ada beberapa journals daripada faculty lain ya. Okay, when it's sharing papers, dia tak ambil daripada journal, dia ambil daripada journal lain. So that it's actually among the practice yang being applied among the editors lah. Yeah. So this is an example of conceptual paper. Dia tak semestinya you mention perkataan conceptual paper tu lah. But again, some paper dia letak conceptual paper tu, words conceptual paper. So it's just a browse through. I wanted to see that dia tak ada any data. It's just a proposed relationship. Okay, so this is an example of conceptual paper. Okay, so again, dia balik ke screen yang pertama. So cari screen yang kita tadi. Am I too fast or just nice? Boleh lah kan? Not too fast.
Boleh,
Okay.
Dr. Johan.
Okay.
Nice.
The second one is that review articles. Okay. Review articles ni maksudnya we generally summarize the current state of research on a given topic. Okay, maksudnya you review other articles and you write a paper related to the given topics. Yeah. A secondary sources, basically it involves secondary sources lah, sumber yang secondary data. Yeah. Synthesize or analyze research already conducted in a primary sources. Maksudnya paper has been published and you are actually compiling. Bukan compiling lah, you are summarizing research into a review. Yeah. Sometimes kita tak panggil dia review articles, kita panggil dia sebagai literature review, meta-analysis and systematic review. Meta-analysis here is actually referring to, kalau kita pernah dengar ya perkataan meta-cognition. Meta-cognition, kalau kita refer to the definition, is a thinking about thinking. So when it talks about meta-analysis here, you analyze based on other people analysis. Okay, maksudnya you analyze other people findings and combine results from similar studies. Okay, and then the other terms here like systematic review. Systematic review adalah one type of an attempt to gather all empirical research by using systematic methods to obtain answers to a specific questions. So kalau tengok contoh paper article review articles ya, this one I take from Eric. Okay, the use of social media in e-learning. So it is more into like reviewing articles. Yeah? You synthesize. Okay, that article ada dalam artikel publication on June. Ada satu paper yang bertajuk, let me show you ya. Dipanggil Building. This is written by Dr. Mazlina Patihan and Erny Eliana Khairuddin. Building qualitative research construct by conceptualizing theory and model of literature review. So this type of paper is actually related to this review articles. Yeah? Okay, and then the next type of paper will be, dia dah balik ke slide number 1 ya. Okay, which is perspective, opinion, and commentary. So this one is actually related to personal opinion or a new perspective about existing research on a particular topic. This one, the author needs to have an in-depth knowledge of the topics and do not involve original research as they have considered as secondary literature. Yeah? But please, yeah, this one actually, once I have shared you this type of paper yang kita terima, it is again depends on the editors punya ataupun reviewer punya recommendation. Yeah? We just put a category of papers lah. Yeah? So we have 4. One is empirical research. The second one is conceptual paper. The third one is review articles. This is the fourth one, perspective, opinion, and commentary articles. And the fourth one is like a book review. Okay, because we do publish some papers which focusing on book review. Yeah, it is a thorough description, critical analysis, and evaluation of the quality, meaning, and significance of a book, often written in relation to prior research on the topic. So there's one link here. I think you can click the link to look into the articles. Yeah? Let us click this one. Okay. Book review by Reginald M.J. Order. Introduction to Ethics. So if you plan to review a book and you would like to publish it, we can consider that as one of the publication. Okay. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it all depends on the outcome of the review and editor suggestion. Yeah. Okay. Other than that, I think that is the 4 types. Other than that is etc. So any types of publication yang not falls in this category, you can submit. But again, it depends on the review and editor suggestion. Yeah. Okay. I am done with the types of papers that tadi. Okay. So format. Okay, format of the journal submission will be, you see, I think if you go to that website also, you will be able to see the formats. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, our designers can help you with more or less with the technical part. Cumanya you need to have all this info with you lah. Okay, the title and then okay, the abstract and the keywords. Yeah. So I think this is actually similar to other journal submission, where you have to have all this information with you, abstract and keywords. Yeah. And then in introduction, of course, you have introduction, and when it's come to numbering, it start with 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like this, 1, 2, 3. So under 2, if you have subtopic, then use 2.1 lah. Yeah? Okay, this is table. When you would like to have table in this journals lah, yeah, we start with table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4, table 5, and etc. And there are a few types of content dalam kita punya articles. One is table, another one might be equation. So kalau we are come from different disciplines and you would like to put in equations, this is the way of doing it lah. So equation, we put it number 1 bracket. And then if you have figure, then the figure labeling should be bawah, yeah. And then just to make sure that the figure must be clear lah, yeah. Figure must be clear. Okay. And then this is if you have quotes. Okay, kalau you ada, I think some of us from the faculty of Science, Computer and Mathematics, yeah, you might wanted to include some quotes. So these are, yeah, these are amongst the way of how to write the quotes. Okay, and then these are the references. Okay, so references, we don't accept references in IEEE formats, yeah, which usually you can find it's using numbering 1, 2, 3, like that, yeah. So we are using APA style, APA 6 to be exact, yeah. Okay, so I think that is format. I think dalam link tadi pun I ada share with you all the formats, so you can look into the formats. Okay, the publication process. This is the publication process.
Dr. Johan?
Yes.
Before we proceed with the process, okay, I would like to read some of the questions from the participants. Yeah.
Okay, let me look.
This one question from Emilia. The soalan dia, masuk mudah untuk conceptual paper. Instead of writing conceptual paper, if they want to relate to the ODL practice, okay, how we can make it as a conceptual paper, Dr. Jan? For example, they have some, macam ni dia nak transfer okay, their own practice tu as in forms of a conceptual paper.
Okay. Conceptual paper in nature, yeah, is where if you wanted to integrate, ataupun proposing new relationship among constructs. Okay, so if you have that in your ODL, yeah, contohnya, this is just an example lah, yeah. If you have been practicing ODL for the past 2 years and you notice that there are a few conceptual ataupun framework which guides you to this practice of ODL, and you notice that when you actually doing ODL, framework number 1 doesn't really works with you. Framework number 2 pun doesn't really work with you. So you are now proposing framework number 3, which a combination of these two lah, mungkin ya. Ataupun you take 80% from framework number 1 and 20% from framework number 2, and you come out with a new framework. Okay, and in that framework, you are actually have a new relationship between the proposed variable inside there. So the product of the paper, conceptual paper, is that you are proposing a new one ataupun you are suggesting a new one. Walaupun dia masih belum lagi proven. It's just a proposing to have everyone's have a say to it lah, whether they agree or not. But this paper comes from your practice. So you'll be able to suggest in the paper that some of the outcome ataupun some of the reasons lah why framework number 1 and number 2 doesn't suit you. Can I answer that
Dr.
question?
Johan? Yes, thank you, Doctor. But then if they have their own practice, okay, in ODL or in blended learning or e-learning,
Okay.
can they convert their own practice into into a form of framework without referring to other framework? Meaning that dia dah buat benda tu,
That is again come back to research methodology lah, ya. Kalau to answer that question dalam bahasa yang research methodology, ya, it's always good to have a new framework supported by theory ataupun a previous framework. Okay, so sebab kalau tiba-tiba of course I know that kita when we practice ODL and suddenly kita notice that these are the element yang perlu ada bila kita work on ODL papers, like this, yeah. So I think that is based on our practice. So in a research, it is always good to have supported by literature review or by theory. So what you can do is that perhaps before the framework ataupun before the conceptual framework appear, you can start with explaining some of the theory behind it. For example, bila kita deal with adults punya students, yeah, one of the characteristics is they like to have their autonomy, their control towards that lesson. So perhaps you can include andragogy elements in the discussion, which leads to the framework, which justify the framework. So tapi try to avoid lah having the framework appear tanpa any foundation to it. That is my answer to it lah.
Doktor, if I may tanya, boleh saya tanya ke?
Boleh.
Okay, minta maaf Doktor, ya. Saya yang tanya soalan tadi tu pasal conceptual paper. But then now is that, okay, katalah saya punya ODL ni basically I'm workshop base, ya.
Okay.
Practice base. Lepas tu I buat macam ODL. So I want to write something. Is it empirical ataupun conceptual paper? Macam I practice that. Sebelum ni tak ada orang buat. Okay. Whereas, for example, I've been sending student the raw material from the faculty. Okay. I've been sending, and then I'm making videos. Memang semua orang ada buatlah proses tu, tetapi to our department, our program is a very new thing lah. Since the pandemic jadi kita buat satu cara di mana kita hantar produk-produk all the bahan-bahan to the student, and the thing is that kita nak bagi tahu how that macam mana dia berjaya dilakukan lah. So what is the best adakah dia sesuai untuk conceptual paper ke empirical ke, yang mana macam mana nak suitkan which type of paper yang kita boleh hantar tulis. Thank you, Doktor.
Okay. Puan Emilia, Dr. Emilia, you tak collect data kan in your...
Saya ada buat survey jugalah, maksudnya macam keupayaan mereka membuat bengkel di rumah. Okey, lepas tu kesulitan yang mereka hadapi, contohnya ruang yang digunakan di rumah, mendapatkan peralatan di rumah. So macam mana kesulitan, perbezaan buat di fakulti dan di bengkel di fakulti atau dengan rumah, macam mana perbezaan experience yang mereka dapat sebelum, adakah membantu dan sebagainya. Tu saya ada buat survey lah. Tapi saya by the end of the day saya tak tahu pun nak buat.
We would like to have this paper under empirical research article lah, Puan Emilia.
Oh, okay.
Sebab you have data kan, and while presenting it, you can actually put in all the other data yang you dah ambil tu. All the other discussion, dalam discussion tu, you can include all the activities that you have been done.
Okay.
I
Meaning
think
must be supported by literature review yang banyak-banyak juga ke tak payah?
tak,
So-
dia the paper for this article, for this journal is about 8 to 12 pages. Kalau kita letak dalam perkataan about 2,500 to 4,500. So since Puan Del tadi ada data kan, so the write up might be a combinations of two lah. I nampak empirical research dengan review articles. So dia tak solely on empirical research, dia tak solely on review articles. So you can combine, you can write the articles, use the template, and when it's come to research punya objective tadi, you will put there, contohnya the research objective will be to identify ataupun to determine yang data tadi itu dengan, and then one of the research objective will be to suggest ataupun to macam to suggest a framework lah ataupun to one of the verbs, that one, to develop. Okay, am I answering your question, Emilia?
Is it design?
Yes,
Dr.
yes.
Johan?
To design, yes.
To design, okay.
To design a framework.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Johan, I think yang relevan dengan Dr. Amelia punya soalan tu, I think boleh refer kot pada yang the latest publication volume 14 tu. There's one paper by Dr. Syamsul Nazlan on studio-based assessment. So I think that paper is related to what Dr. Amelia is asking about. Dr. Amelia, boleh?
Yes, thank you for the suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Okay, another question about this paper, Dr. Johan. That one is for conceptual paper. Ada soalan tentang meta-analysis. Okay, this one from Dr. Nuraida. Okay, the question is, meta-analysis is similar to synthesis?
Meta-analysis, kalau kita tengok description paper dia, it is more about analysis and analysis based on other people analysis. So basically, so ada perkataan meta depan tu. Meta means it's more in-depth. Contohnya kalau kita just talking about synthesis, boleh juga. It is actually just synthesizing the data yang you dapat tu, but meta will be on a very in-depth part. Maksudnya when you synthesis an article, you are looking it into in-depth perspective. Cuma bezanya adalah dia in-depth sedikit when it's come to meta-analysis. So I think the paper here, kalau nak tengok example of meta-analysis ni, dia ada satu paper dalam publication on June. Let me look into the papers. Building qualitative research construct by conceptualizing theory and model of the literature review. Boleh tengok sana lah. So dia hampir sama, cuma meta-analysis ni adalah dia lebih in-depth. Lebih kepada what do you call it? Combining results from similar studies and not only focusing on one article. Okay, Puan Erny?
Okay, Dr. Johan, there's a question from Dr. Nur Aida. Okay, and then the next one from Badrul Nizam Ismail. So yang ini berkaitan dengan review types of article. So for review type article, review paper and book review, is it necessary to request permission from editorial first
Yes,
to ensure
yes.
editorial agree with the article that will be written by the author?
I think bila kita review buku ni, I think it is a good practice for us to request a permission. Sebab bila kita review ni, we are talking about the books kan. So I think to require that permission will be important for the writer. And they must be supported by any emails ataupun any letter saying that they agree that the researcher are going to have a review to the books. And some of the cases, in some of the cases, the publisher ataupun the editorial of the book would like to see the review before it's being published. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Johan. And then another question is, can conceptual and article review papers be published in Scopus journals? I think this one is depend on the journals, right?
Depends on the journals. Scopus journals in UiTM, the one that I know is AJU lah, from my faculty also, headed by Prof. Chan. Okay, but as I mentioned earlier, some journals, every journals lah, they have the niche area. So I think there is no harm of trying it. Just fit the theme of the journal and send it for that journal to be reviewed lah. And we work on based on the recommendation.
Okay, right. Okay, but then for AJL, okay, definitely we will accept both types of papers, right?
Okay.
Okay, and then the last question about these types of article from Siti Nur Amalina. When writing for book review, can we write from the perspective as one's own takeaway as a reader? Meaning that to use the I word, for example,
In academic,
from a personal point of view lah. Is it
in
possible?
academic writing, we usually don't accept the word I lah. Kalau boleh kita guna perkataan. Now when you review, you put the word as a reviewer or researcher. We do accept that one. But of course, we will back to the editors to look into it lah. Sebab we have Prof. Aiza, which is expert in reviewing. So we will send to her to determine our next step when we have that articles. But of course, when you write a book review, as I mentioned earlier, it is good to have the approval from the editorial ataupun the publisher of the books. Okay. I think ada soalan lagi dari bawah tu daripada.
Ada, the last one. Ada lagi dua. Ni the one is from Dr. Anelka. So do we need to submit the REC form or append REC approval? REC form.
Yes, we need to use this one. But of course, in these journals ada satu form yang kita panggil consent form. Consent form. Dalam yang I share tadi, kita ada satu consent form di mana the author will have to agree. Ada dalam form tadi kita ada consent form di mana dia tak publish
Okay, and
mana-mana.
then ada from Mizatun. For a survey study, do we need an ethical approval to get published?
Okay. For a survey study, do we need an ethical approval to get published? I think this one, when you do research in schools, this is based on my experience lah, in schools or in any institution under Kementerian Pengajian Tinggi, we actually need to ask for permission. Okay, so when it's come to this permissions, it is actually important for the researcher to get whatever approval is needed for that research. So on our side, on the journal side, we accept paper as it is. So that is the responsibility of the writer or the researcher lah, to get necessary approval prior to the submission of the articles. Kalau yang ajar
And the last one, kalau ajar matematik, macam mana
okay.
ya maksudnya nak write code?
Kalau yang ajar matematik macam mana? Okay, soalan ni open. Tapi kalau yang ajar matematik, I think this is back to kita punya ni lah, kita punya study tu. If you wanted to see the impact, okay, contohnya lah ya, if you wanted to see the impact of dia ada satu Web 2.0 which related to mathematics punya test, kalau tak silap dipanggil Luaran ke. So an example lah ya, kalau you wanted to see an effectiveness of that websites, how students use it, whether it helps students in learning mathematics, then that is one of the example of study which we can use. So again, kalau ajar matematik ni, we actually depends on the researcher lah, on what topics you are focusing on. So on our side, on the general side, we do essay papers, and if it fits our theme, so kalau yang ajar matematik ni, kalau nak to be considered to be published in the journals, it must be able to fit the two themes tadi lah, e-learning dan higher education. So contoh yang I bagi tadi itu related to one of the website, Web 2.0, which related to mathematics, which fits the first journal. The first part, which is e-learning. The second part, which is the higher education, means the students from the university should be able to fit the second one. From Puan Nurida, ada satu kan? Puan Erny, if we were to write about given assignment which has been modified to suit the ODL teaching and learning.
Teaching and learning.
And the rubrics. If we were to write about given assignments which has been modified to suit the ODL teaching and learning and the rubrics, mohon Dr. Johan suggest how to make it as paper.
I think yang ni apa yang Puan Nurida mention ni tentang assignment yang diubah suai agar bersesuaian dengan ODL rasanya. So I think dia macam penambahbaikan. Puan Nurida boleh clarify tak dengan Dr. Johan? Betul. So maksud dia assignment yang kita ubah suai, assignment tu dijalankan dalam kelas tapi kita ubah suai untuk kegunaan dalam environment ODL.
Okay.
So yang ini design juga ke or improvement, Dr. Johan? If you want to write it as a paper.
I rasa this one, kalau you dah modified assignments tu to suit the ODL teaching and learning and the rubrics, I rasa this one can be one of the paper which will give us the perspective. Kecuali kalau dia ada data, tadi kalau the paper will have some data, then dia akan jadi macam empirical research lah. Tapi kalau dia tak ada data and it is focusing on teaching and learning and rubrics, dia boleh jadi one of the papers under perspective lah. Under perspective ni, if you look into a slide tadi, dia adalah satu paper yang express a new perspective about existing research on a particular topics. Okay, it do not involve original research or they consider as secondary literature.
Alright. Okay. So that's answer question from Panorida. So I think that's all for publication types. Okay, I think we may proceed with the next slide, Dr. Johan, on the process.
Okay.
And then kalau kata ada soalan lagi nanti boleh tanya kemudian ya. Okay, we proceed with the process first. Thank you.
Okay. Process tadi. Okay. Okay. This is basically the process that we have. Mungkin tak nampak ya. Okay. This is a normal process. Tapi bukan dalam bengkel ni lah. This bengkel is actually customized for publication. Okay. So when the author submits manuscript, okay, biasanya editor baca dulu lah ya. Editor baca dulu. Kalau I buka email tu ada paper, I akan hantar kepada editor yang memang dalam bidang tersebut lah. So ada beberapa kemungkinan lah when it's come to this one. Sama ada memang tak reject terus ya, reject terus. Kalau accepted, then kita send to external reviewer. Okay, external reviewer ni bukan editors tau, dia reviewer yang memang bidang dia. So I think this is the steps lah kita ada dalam journal tu. Tapi I won't elaborate much on this. Cuma bila katakan dia all accepted, before the production, we will run the turn it in. So bila kita run turn it in tu, kita accept about 25 to 30% similarities index. Okay, the similarity index is actually referring to bukannya sentence yang generic lah ya, sebab biasanya generic statement ni pun turn it in dia akan capture. So this all are depending depending on the good judgment of the editors lah, sama ada dia accept tak. So walaupun dia similarity index tu ada, cuma dia cite perkataan tu. So we do accept that sometimes bila editor to look into the documents ya. Okay, so this is peer review versus editor. Also, I would like to focus this. This is peer review in journals. So the reviewer is not an editor ya, dia part of the editors lah ya. So dia akan look into the critical assessment of the manuscript submitted to the journals by the experts who are not part of the editorial staff. And I would like to highlight this about the editor's part is actually responsible for ensuring the quality of the journals, and that what is reported is ethical, accurate, and relevant to their readership. Okay. Okay. So this is actually one of the comments bila kita buat some of the workshop dengan editors, all the editors ya. Of course, our aims is to publish. Tapi at the same time, that will be a bonus for the researcher bila dah publish nanti. You have high citation. Okay. So this is what the editors will look for in a paper to increase citation. Kalau ada satu paper tu yang last year kita nampak very can increase the citation of the journal, kita cepat-cepat publish ya. So paper with mechanism instead of normal analysis, paper with a new preparation method, paper presenting new techniques, paper that use several methods to prove the same results, and results analyzed using sophisticated method. So these are among the things that can increase citations to the paper and at the same time to the journal itself. Okay, so this is actually important for all the writers to make sure all illustration are of the highest quality. Okay, and at one point of time, kalau kita nampak dia tak terang, then we'll need to request author to improve their figures when necessary. And tables may be combined or deleted depending on the circumstances. Okay, ada satu table, kadang-kadang bila kita last check, ada satu table yang dia dah tolak ke bawah tu, and then dia pecah terbagi dua. One part is on the previous page, the next one on the later page. So kita terpaksa minta, kalau kita boleh buat, kita buatlah. But kalau memang dia panjang sangat, then we have to split into two lah. Yeah. Don't accept everything that the typesetter gives you lah. Yeah. Sometimes kalau dia dah jadi 2 page, 3 page tu kita accept. Yeah. Okay, so this is a quick check by the author. Okay, I think this is if you look into this ya, dia ada dalam kita punya form yang evaluation form tadi. A title, abstract, keyword, introduction, methods, results, discussion, conclusion, impact on the field of study or policy, references. This one is actually focusing on these journals, yeah. But I do believe that other journals also emphasize on this. Article is concise and easy to read. Figure and tables are appropriate and high quality. This is important so that our designer we will not need to contact you lah in case we lost some of the numbers ataupun dia tak berapa terang ya. Okay, address of the author given in full and email address lah ya. Not I mean institutions. Ada dalam format tadi, dalam template tadi. So it is good to have your articles means you use the template so that when the secretariat are looking into it, then it's already in the format. Yeah? Corresponding author indicated asterisk. Okay, this is important ya sebab I think bila kita publish artikel tu, bila you ada asterisk, walaupun you bukan the first author, the second author, dia akan contact the one usually with this asterisk. Okay, receive and accepted that. I think this one kalau tengok dalam kita punya checklist tadi, kita do wanted to know the receive and accepted that because that is one of the requirement set by RMC ya, UITM. Kita tahu bila artikel tu masuk, bila artikel tu accepted. Okay, authors are responsible for the quality of paper being published. One is language and another one is quality of the figures, table and reference and etc. Okay, so I think this is the evaluation of the articles. Okay, based on the reviewer form. Okay, this is the one that I mentioned just now. Evaluation International Journal on E-Learning and Higher Education. So the reviewer, I hope the secretariat can use this form letter ya. Bila for example when you wanted to have the evaluation of the manuscript. Okay, Puan Erny. This one also inside dalam kita punya ni juga, dalam kita punya journal ya. I will show you later. These are an example lah ya, example. Contoh beberapa I mean feedback from the reviewer. This is artikel ni tak publish lagi. This is not yet published. I would like the researcher to have an article to be proofread. There are some of the sentences that need to be rectified. Some references also missing. Yeah? So you will be able to see the red punya sentences there for them to re-improve lah. Yeah? Okay, then it was highlighted previously that the study is directed towards primary school level, but the purposive sampling, purposeful sampling will be used to identify respondents among different age of primary, secondary, and tertiary schools. I'm not sure if there is an error with the sentences. So these are among the comments lah, yeah? Comments from the reviewer. So when it's come to editor's comments, yeah, I think it is important to highlight all this so that our friends knows that these are the steps that we take. Yeah? So bila kita editors baca, dia kata ada contohnya lah ya. Artikel number 1 and artikel nombor 1 dan nombor 4 ada banyak simbol. Minta penulis sahkan. Okay, so these are amongst the among the final check done by the editors. Ini mohon pengesahan penulis berkaitan penggunaan figure and table dalam setiap artikel sama ada mendapat pengirahan bertulis email daripada pemilik asal. So this is like bila editor tu baca ya, and then ada banyak figure and table yang memang I mean from other sources. So it is important to have kebenaran tu lah, ya. So that's why kalau you notice dalam journal kita, kalau ada figure yang memang very difficult to get approval, ataupun memang you can't reach the person, even to have the email punya to be responded by the owner. So kita suggest bahawa it is good to drop that table, ataupun you just mention the name of the table. Tapi bila you keluarkan di dalam bentuk diagram, then you need to ask permission. So ada yang kita suggest, how about if you just mention the name? Okay. The next one is that this is among the comments also lah, yeah, from the journals. Okay. And then once the journals has been published, ataupun bukan publish, has been approved to be published, dia ada satu consent form which we will ask the writer to fill in. Okay, for them to fill in, then it is stated there that we mutually agree that publication of the contributions is contingent upon its acceptance by the publication of IGEL and upon meeting IGEL editorial standards. Okay, so this is actually a copyright assignments. Ada juga dibincangkan sana copyright assignments where IGEL undertakes to publish the contribution as above, and whereas you desire to have the contribution so published, now therefore and you grant and assign the IGEL for its exclusive right for the entire copyright of the contribution. Okay, so once it's republished, because for these journals, it is free of charge, and I think in the near future, I'm not sure about this, the CEO of ISEP has mentioned that we might need some fees for the writer to submit it, but so far it's all for free. You understand that if you publish under AJU for faculty application, they announce Scopus, and you have to pay about 1,000 ringgit for one article to be published in AJU. And for staff, I think it's about 800 ringgit. And at the same time, we do accept requests from other institutions. This is the second one from UKM. We have one last year from, this is just recently, July 19. We have one from UPN last year. Okay, in the document that I have shared with you, I think this is the one that I shared with you in the Google Drive. This is the article template. I think it is in the form of Word so that it is easier for you to change. Yeah. Okay. Then you have the consent form. I have put it both in PDF and Microsoft Words. So when it comes to consent form here, yeah, you at the end of the day you have to sign. You accept and approve. And then the next document here is that the reviewer punya form. Okay. I would like to share with you one example of reviewer form yang memang telah diisi. Okay. This is an example of one article with the title of The Role of Social Networking Sites in Improving Academic Learning Process Among the Undergraduates of the Faculty of Education, ITM. It received on the 14th oh sorry, this one is actually, it's not 7 here actually. This one should be 8. Okay, it's about 10 days. Okay, mungkin sudah masuk ni ya. So this is among the feedback, okay, given by the author. The title. So these are from the author lah ya. Take here. So number, if it's not applicable, kalau tak applicable to that paper, so kita tak tick lah ya. So basically these are the things that we will look into. So bila kita appoint reviewer, we will give them this form. Okay, kalau tak not available, dia akan tick not available ya. So dia akan highlight except with minor revisions, and if there is any additional comment, the researcher need to highlight here so that we will share this info with the author. Okay, so we will in the next steps, bila kita dah hantar kepada writer ataupun researcher tu, dia nak hantar semula, then they need to again, okay, they need to again include this so that the reviewer knows that which part has been rectified. Okay. Okay, so this is part here. And then dalam tu juga kita ada the slide is here, how to write and publish your ODL. This is the slides. Okay, you can have it here. You can into the slides. Okay, and the last part is that I would just like to share dalam website journals ya. In the journals punya website, yes. We do put all information here. Okay, one of the important thing is ethics, like I think Dr. Anelka had mentioned just now, which for this publication of the journals, we do follow the publication ethics, okay, by COP. Okay, so IDL publishing ethics are based on best practices guideline for journal editors and conduct for journal publisher practice by Committee of Publication, COP. Yeah. So that's why when we publish a paper, yeah, there is an important for the writer to make sure that whatever approval for the usage of diagram or table or whatever it is being taken into account, so that there is no repercussion. I mean, after the publication, then there's an issue towards it. So we would like to avoid that scenario. Okay, so I think this is the author responsibility. We have reviewer responsibilities. Okay, we have author responsibilities. Yeah. So it is important for the authors here to present their results clearly, honesty and without fabrication, falsification, and inappropriate data manipulation. I think this is, similar to any research. Yeah? Especially when it's come to falsification, yeah, ataupun using inappropriate data manipulation, it will affect the journal itself. So it is important that the editors ataupun the reviewer try to look into the reporting standards ataupun the reporting the data. So any data which we would like to question ataupun we would like to seek more clarifications should be done before the paper being published. As I mentioned earlier tadi juga, I do mention that plagiarism, originality, and acknowledgement of sources. Okay, so we encourage that the publication to the journal is original. Yeah? Again, I would like to highlight that in the meeting with all the journal's editors, yeah, it is unadvisable lah, tidak dinasihatkan ya, when you send one paper for these journals and the same paper also being submitted to another journals. So you are actually trying luck for two journals lah. So it is not encouraged to do that lah ya, sebab nanti kalau di sana diterima, then that will affect to another publication which you have it here. Okay, so I think as I mentioned earlier, for plagiarism, not plagiarism lah, for similarity index in Turnitin, yeah, we do accept 25 to 30%. But we do understand that in Turnitin, they work on similarity index. So generic terms which been used by all researchers, we will try to ignore that when we run the Turnitin reports. Okay, this one, ethics. Okay, authors should only submit papers only on a work that has been conducted in an ethical and responsible manner, and that complies with all relevant legislation. Okay, authorship of the paper, I think you can look into it. Yeah, this one is important because it's being also highlighted in most of the discussion with the editors. If the works involve chemicals, procedures, or equipment, yeah, that have any unusual inherent to their use, the author must clearly identify this in the manuscript. Okay. Okay. Fundamental errors in a published work: when an author discovers a significant error or inaccuracy in his or her own published work, it is the author's obligation to promptly notify the journal editor or publisher and cooperate with the editor to retract or correct the paper. Okay, so I think this is one of the information that we have in our websites. Yeah. So I think I have actually covered. The time is given to me is 3 hours, tapi 1 hour 45 minutes pun dah ni. I've covered all. So basically, yeah, I would like to summarize here that when it's come to publication in IGEL, we do the author need to comply the two themes which we have mentioned earlier. One is e-learning, and the other one is higher education. So you can look that into the slides. Yeah? And again, it is not me, it is not the editor who accept the paper, it is the reviewer, which will do the first vetting of the paper. The reviewer must be the expert in the area. Okay, I rasa Puan Erny, I rasa if we have any question, we can take the questions lah.
Okay, terima kasih Dr. Johan. So we open to the floor for questions and answer session. So kalau ada persoalan boleh saja type di ruangan chat ataupun unmute mikrofon dan boleh bertanya terus kepada Dr. Johan. Okay, silakan. Dr. Johan, rasanya boleh tak tunjuk slides yang dekat components of the publications tu?
Boleh. Sekejap ya. Share. Stop video dulu. Share.
Okay, boleh saja bertanya ya, apa-apa saja soalan yang berkaitan dengan publication kita.
So I rasa yang ni, the type of paper you mean, Puan Erny?
The components, ada yang components.
This one?
Ada yang dalam kotak-kotak kecil tu.
Kotak-kotak kecil. Oh, tadi
So
okay.
all these are the types of papers that we accept for publication in Agile.
Kotak-kotak kecil. Mana kotak-kotak kecil
Ada lagi yang I think before the reviewing process. Is it?
Before that. Ni.
That's one. Okay. So
Okay.
check for the author. So all these are the components yang kita suggest untuk ada dalam manuskrip ataupun dalam kita punya artikel. Right. Ada soalan tak nak tanya berkaitan dengan ni? Okay, sambil-sambil tu saya nak bukan nak promote lah tapi nak bagi tahu. So petang ni kita ada sesi bengkel untuk penulisan. Okay, jadinya apa yang kita akan buat, kita akan bantu mana-mana semua pensyarah yang mendaftar dalam bengkel, kita akan buat guided group, okay, guided facilitated group, okay, untuk writing. Sebenarnya dia adalah free and easy writing, tapi kita ada facilitator bagi setiap group yang kita assign. Okay, setiap peserta kita akan assign pada satu group dan setiap group tu akan ada satu facilitator yang akan membantu di sepanjang proses penulisan. Dan insyaAllah by end of our session, bengkel esok, okay, kita expect akan adalah first draft. Okay, first draft untuk publication. So we encourage all the lecturers to join the workshop, okay, and then try to publish. Okay, sebab tadi macam Dr. Johan cakap, Agile untuk kali ini masih lagi percuma ya Dr. Johan. Dan insyaAllah kita akan cuba publish dan kita akan cuba publish semua manuskrip yang disubmit dalam selewat-lewatnya dalam bulan Oktober ya Dr. Johan.
Depending on the on the
process.
Depending on the process yang Puan Erny share awal tadi. The process dia punya stages tu.
Okay. So kalau kata yang dah mendaftar, kita akan ada satu sesi briefing lagi petang ni untuk semua peserta dan saya akan highlight lah apa yang perlu kita buat, okay, dan juga sesi-sesi yang kita akan lalui bersama, okay, untuk pastikan by end of the session, okay, untuk workshop session kita akan ada satu draft, first draft, dan kita akan bagi masa yang secukupnya untuk para peserta polish balik paper tu untuk submission, okay, untuk submission pada Agile. Dan insyaAllah kita akan cuba pastikan semuanya orang kata apa, sekiranya memenuhi syarat, kita akan pastikan semuanya dipublish ke dalam Agile. Okey, Dr. Johan ada satu soalan ya daripada Ahmad. Kalau perlu apply ethics untuk survey, macam mana dia punya SOP ya? Sebab kita punya pensyarah ni tak ada experience sebab my area is secondary data. Soalan daripada Ahmad Hassan.
Kalau perlu apply ethics untuk survey, macam mana SOP ya? Tak ada experience buat my secondary data. Can I check with this first dengan relevant parties so that I can get you the actual answer, the specific answer for this. Oh, Dr. Hamiza is referring to secondary data. Kalau secondary data, we actually can put it under review paper so that the permission of having the ethics is just based on the article itself. Tapi kalau Puan Hamiza is referring to a survey, maksudnya you would like to do a survey to certain group of people, okay? This is on my experience as a lecturer of research methodology in the Faculty of Education. Yeah, kalau I'm not sure about other faculties or other relevant parties. Yeah, tapi for education, as I mentioned earlier, for KPT ataupun for under Ministry of Education, it is important to get an approval dari segi kementerian, and then get approval from schools, and then from the PPD, and then only you go to the schools. Okay. So ethics, I think, let me check with Jawatankuasa Ethics. Okay, I'm sure that every faculty ada Jawatankuasa Ethics. Let me check on this, and then I will get back to Puan Erny for that. I mean, the actual SOP for that.
Boleh Dr. Johan?
Okay.
Okay, so ada soalan lain lagi?
Rasa semua dah faham kot, Puan Erny. But basically, untuk makluman semua, Agile is actually open all year, ya, setiap tahun, sepanjang tahun. But this version that we have agreed on for this session is that this is a special issue that we plan to publish by October, kan Puan Erny? Basically, kalau pengalaman publication di jurnal ni yang lambat adalah because the process of the writer to rectify the manuscript. Satu lagi mungkin di pihak inilah, di pihak reviewer untuk review. So that is actually taking times. But by having this effort by CIDL ni, we can make sure everything's speed enough lah. Speed enough so that we can have it published as we plan for this October. And for your information, I mean, once we have the MyCite punya citation index, that will also apply for previous publication, ya.
Estimated bila Dr. Johan?
Dia on run punya, sekarang ni dia tengah evaluate ni. Dia sampai September dia punya evaluation process. So all these 45 journals di UiTM ni cuma ada 4 saja yang ada MyCite. So the rest is actually currently being proposed seperti dalam website yang I share pagi tadi, ya.
Okey Dr. Johan, ada satu lagi soalan daripada Selinda. Sekiranya pensyarah mengajar menggunakan buku-buku teks semasa ODL, adakah boleh untuk publish juga? Quite confusing.
Okay. Salah satu paper yang kita terima untuk diterbitkan dalam jurnal ni juga adalah dalam kategori book review. Okay. Book review ni adalah di mana mungkin buku teks tersebut adalah buku teks yang berimpak tinggi. Contohnya buku teks tersebut really help you in teaching ataupun in having this ODL teaching and learning. So you would like to share whatever practices yang ada dalam buku itu from reading until to have it done in the class. So boleh. So mungkin kita tak specify lah apa dia punya subtopic, but again that is you can follow the template and subtopic dia mungkin the construct itself lah. Okay. So boleh untuk publish juga, yes boleh. Tapi of course as I mentioned earlier, kena dapatkan ni lah the main concern from the publisher ataupun the editorial board. And in some cases, ada cases yang memang editorial board dia kata ya, tapi I would like to see the review before it's being published.
Okay.
Okay.
Ada satu lagi soalan daripada Dr. Rozia. Jika buat survey hanya dengan pelajar kelas sahaja dan tiada paksaan, adakah perlu juga memohon untuk ethic consent?
Yang ni I kena double check lah. But for my experience when I do research, kalau I buat research yang on my own personal research, I tak isi ethic forms. Tapi of course bila kajian tersebut kita ingin publish dan juga kita ingin share to the world, we need to protect ourselves lah with all this consent. So let me check dalam publication, dalam proses membuat survey ni, dia adalah di peringkat researcher. So on the general side, as I mentioned, kita cuma accept paper tu as it is lah, taking into consideration that all the ethics punya process tu has been done. But I can help with checking with ethics punya jawatan kuasa, whether when we have it in a class, do we need to fill up the ethics. But I do believe kalau I punya student postgraduate dalam masters and PhD, all the research they need to go through the jawatan kuasa ethics. Tapi I'm not sure about if you do it on the personal basis. But for official research ataupun dalam kajian yang berbentuk rasmi, contohnya dalam postgraduate tersebut, my students do apply for REC. Tapi this one, let me check lah, ya. Sama ada situasi macam ni kita perlu apply ethics atau tak.
Okay. Right, so nanti masa briefing bengkel nanti hopefully kita dah ada maklumat tu ya Dr. Johan pukul 2.
Okay, boleh. Nanti saya tanya
Okay,
Dr.
right.
Sulawati daripada
Jahan.
fakulti A, ya. Cuma ni satu lagi
Alright.
soalan Puan Erny. Special issue ni
Aha.
hanya untuk isu on ODL saja?
ODL.
Yes, ya.
Aha.
Ada lagi, I baca lah ya Puan Erny.
Boleh.
What if tak ada consent tapi kita blanko je nama students? If it's an interview. Also, we state and direct the research to the local university without meaning. For instance. Okay. This one I leave it to the researcher lah, ya. Leave it to the researcher. Tapi we do believe that kalau paper ni publish nanti, and then this issue rise up, ya. So that will be another unwanted scenario that we don't want to have lah. So in terms of the practice of collecting data, is again back to the researcher to get the necessary punya arrangement or approval. But in terms of publication, we will have our own set of guidelines and requirement.
Okay, terima kasih Dr. Johan. Right, ada lagi soalan yang berkaitan dengan special issues ni. It's actually dia masih lagi mengikut tema untuk AJL iaitu e-learning dan juga higher education. Tapi kita bagi kita letakkan ODL ni sebab kita nak bantu pensyarah untuk memperbanyakkan penulisan dan juga publication penerbitan dalam dalam konteks ini dengan dengan menzahirkan kita punya ODL practice, apa yang kita buat di sepanjang tempoh ODL ni kita tulis dan kita terbitkan. Okay, supaya dia juga boleh menjadi rujukan untuk pensyarah-pensyarah lain. Okay, right. So kalau kata yang special issues, yes, kita akan consider untuk ODL. Ya, Dr. Johan kan?
Betul.
Okay. Right. Ada juga soalan bertanya untuk bengkel petang ni datang dengan kalau tak ada idea ke apa ke boleh tak? Boleh saja, boleh. Okay, so dalam sesi briefing nanti pukul 2, so kita akan bincang dekat situ. Saya akan highlightkan apa yang akan kita buat. Okay, dan kita akan cuba untuk keluarkan idea-idea yang ada. Sebab tu kita akan ada briefing dulu pukul 2 sebelum kita mulakan dengan sesi hands-on. Dalam session yang telah ditetapkan. Okay. Right, kalau kata berminat boleh saja klik pada link yang diberikan dalam chat area tinyurl.com/ODL publication dan saya akan invite dan masukkan dalam kumpulan yang telah ditetapkan. Okay. Right. Ada soalan lagi yang berkaitan dengan publication kita ini?
I rasa if they have any question later, boleh tanya Puan Erny lah. On the general side, I will be able to assist.
Okay.
Okay, I think kita should stop sinilah ya Puan Erny. I pass it back to you.
Okay, kalau kata tak ada soalan lagi, setakat ini dulu kita punya sesi dan kita akan bersambung untuk sesi bengkel kita petang ni pukul 2 dan saya akan berikan link untuk bengkel ni kepada semua peserta yang mendaftar. Okay, sebab kita nak fokuskan pada peserta-peserta mendaftar to make sure that they able to submit the first draft of the manuscript by end of the session. Okay, kita cuba daripada idea tu, kita akan cuba untuk terjemahkan dalam bentuk penulisan dan juga kita akan cuba publishkan idea-idea yang ada, terutama sekali yang berkaitan dengan ODL. Okay, right. attendance link, saya mohon pihak urus setia. Okey, urus setia akan Cik Anis tolong untuk attendance link, dia akan berikan attendance link. Okey, so kalau kata tak ada apa soalan lagi, okey, takat ini saja kita punya sesi. Okey, attendance link dah ada dalam ruangan chat ya. Okey. Right, so kalau tak ada apa saja, kalau tak ada soalan lagi untuk hari ini, okey, saya ucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada Dr. Johan di atas segala maklumat yang telah dikongsikan bersama tadi dan juga di atas peluang penerbitan yang diberikan kepada peserta-peserta bengkel kita, peserta-peserta webinar kita hari ini.